All right, welcome to episode 50 of the Jake Blanchard podcast. I cannot believe we're halfway to 100 in under 9 months. Such a fun journey so far, and I'm committed on bringing more guests from different walks of life, different perspectives, interesting topics like we have for you today. That said, just real quick, this podcast is brought to you in part by Fellowship Brand. They make premium men's grooming products. Go to their website, see what all the buzz is about. They've got natural ingredients, amazing scents, real depth, and they stand for something. So to find out what that is, go to fellowshipbrand.com. Use the code JBP at checkout. That gets you 10% off your order. My guest today is Mike Malterre. He's a VP of Stream to Sea. It's a mineral-based sunscreen company that's been tested and proven safe in freshwater and saltwater for the fishes. Also, coral is a big issue in that space as well. It's safe on coral, lots of different certifications on that product. Mike's an interesting guy. He's had an eclectic career prior to joining Stream to Sea, and I can't wait to unpack that, learn a little bit about him and his passion for recovering from environmental toxicities, protecting our youth, protecting our oceans, and protecting individuals from personal care ingredients. Mike, welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited to have you.
Thanks so much. Happy to be here.
Yeah, so we got connected through a mutual friend. Little shout out to old John Vander Giesen here. I had the pleasure of just kind of bumping into you a couple months ago, and I knew very quickly that you were somebody that I wanted to talk to. So before we dive into the sunscreen company and that side of things, I want to talk about the environment, the ocean, and toxicity. I'd love to learn a little bit about you, man. Like, where are you from? Like, what brings you to where you are today?
Sure. Well, like everybody else, it's a long, strange trip. We started out in Hawaii. My whole family, actually, my name Malterre actually means bad earth. With
ironic, the irony.
Ironic, isn't it, that we're now trying to save the earth? But I'm guessing it's one of those things that they were probably lousy farmers. They were in France, or they had lousy soil or something along those lines. They became sea captains and went to Hawaii. So that's where we can start to, unpack our lineage. So interesting, because I'm the first generation of all of my family that was raised in Hawaii that actually went into the water. First ones that actually knew how to swim. So the rest of them, yeah, you live on an island and you don't know how to swim. That's just amazing to me.
Seems like a prerequisite. It seems like something that you should have to test into.
You'd think, but when you look at where Hawaii is, goodness, it's what, 2,000 miles from anything else. There's not an escape plan that really works well unless you're in a boat or a plane.
I guess that's true.
It's a long way to go from there, but amazing navigators, Hawaiians, and it's been hard to keep me out of the water ever since. Unfortunately, I am part Hawaiian, but I didn't get the cool Hawaiian skin color.
Yeah.
I ended up with sturdy bones and wide feet, which really doesn't help me when it comes to environmental toxin exposure.
Yeah. So you took up a liking for the outdoors in Hawaii. Like, what kind of activities are you into? Like, there's a lot of stuff to do in Hawaii, I guess.
Oh man, there's everything to do in Hawaii, with the exclusion of snow sports, which I just have not been able to pick up since I got back. I like my water, liquid, not in the solid form. But I like to say I do almost every water sport. I do almost all of them poorly, but boy, do I have a lot of fun. The ones that I'm competitive in, or was competitive in, I would say would be Outrigger canoe racing. I used to race Hobie cats. And when we first moved up to Idaho, we had a class 5 rafting team. So guiding rafts and doing whitewater, those have been the sports that I'm best at. I love surfing. I just can't move my feet right. It just doesn't work. So anything that I can do in water, anything for hiking, mountain biking, that sort of thing, get me outside. That's where I thrive.
That's awesome. I had a gentleman, a friend of mine on. His name's Tren Long, and he's
I know Tren.
You know Tren. Okay. Yeah, he was episode 17 of the podcast. I believe somewhere around 17, but he shared a lot of his background in paddling and just his passion for the sport. And
yes,
and I assume that you probably in the same vein, you love it for many of the same reasons.
Yeah, he is a lot more talented at that kayaking than I am. Tren, I believe where we ran into each other, I knew his parents and helped his company with a lot of human resources and things like that. And I'm actually talking to them about sunscreen right now, the largest, rafting company in Idaho. But I think he was probably 11 or 12 and already an Olympic kayaker when he was teaching me to roll a kayak in the YMCA pool.
Yeah.
And I had the best comments from him, things like, wow, you really have your own style, don't you?
He's like that, man.
Yeah.
He's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt as well. I train with him anytime that he happens to be in town, and he has similar comments for jiu-jitsu as well. Oh,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Yeah. No, he says, you roll pretty well for a barrel-chested guy. I'm like, yeah, thank you.
That's so cool.
Really appreciate that, Tim. 12-year-old, shut up.
that's awesome. And then I was doing a little research on you. You had a career in journalism as well. Like you wrote for some magazines, some things like that. Take me through that. Looks like outdoor focused, specifically around paddling.
Yeah, well, that's where we started. That's how we got up to Idaho. So I moved from Hawaii to California, finished my high school and college years, found my wife. We decided California probably wasn't the place to raise kids. Moved up to Idaho with Paddler magazine. So Paddler was based out of Oceanside, California,
Okay.
and decided they were going to move closer to whitewater because the sea kayaking was taking off, but not to the same extent as whitewater. They moved up here to Boise, Idaho. We moved with them, and then we had a whole bunch of different magazines that we were building. So Camping and RV, Eco Traveler, Summit magazine. I was a gear editor and the advertising director. And it was one of those really cool things for youth. The fringe benefits were insane.
Yeah.
I mean, I went to Fiji for $50, right? And we're there for weeks. We were the first Caucasians to go down a whitewater river in Fiji and created a whole industry. Now, 30 years later, there's a whole whitewater industry in Fiji based on our first trips.
Wow.
So, yes, I mean, incredible. Got paid next to nothing. So I was a gear editor so that I could get everybody Christmas presents. So we're going to do waterproof flashlights this year. That's what everybody got for Christmas. And next year was Leatherman tools. So it was a really fun 4 years, lots of exposure to the outdoors, lots of exposure to the marketing and advertising business. And I've been published probably 15 times in different publications.
No,
Went from there to Boise Magazine and Sun Valley Magazine and ran those for quite a while as well. And then looked at what do we do with our kids, right? We're looking at having children. We love everything about Idaho, but really had trouble with the education system.
Sure.
So if we were intelligent enough, we probably would have moved out of state. Instead, we did all the research, got certified, trained, and opened our own schools. And we're the only accredited Montessori schools in the state for 18 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that became the passion then was education.
Yeah. I mean, from the early days, it was all about, I'm going to have a yacht like Jay-Z. And then it kind of shifted to.
That's fine. I could just see you just on that Jay-Z yacht.
Making it rain. Yeah. That was kind of the thought originally. It was all about the dollar signs. And then it became, how do we mix the passion with everything, and how do we fill a need, right? So follow the opportunity. When we looked at it, we said there's not the education here that we needed for our kids. It worked beautifully. Both my kids got amazing scholarships. One still in college, one just graduated with honors, full ride scholarship with engineering. So obviously the education worked, right? It's what we wanted. I sold that about 6 years ago, retired for a whole 36 hours, and then, yeah. What?
Wait, a 36-hour retirement. Now break this 36 hours down for me. Like what did you tell me about retirement, Mike?
Yeah, one of the biggest fails of my life so far, I think, but that's all right. It gave us the opportunity, really. So my accountant called and said, you're going to have a tax issue this year because you just sold a business. If there's anything that you could buy that I could write off that's really stupid, now is the time to do it. So I went down to La Junta, Colorado, picked up a Unimog Mercedes off-road semi-truck with a lifting roof camper on the back and drove it home.
And
And
I've seen it. It's pretty impressive.
his response was, you follow directions well, and I think I should have clarified stupid, because it was really stupid. But the goal was, let's drive around to all the different water events in the Northwest. And so I started a rep company. I had paddle boards, I had bomber floating sunglasses, and that's where I was introduced to Stream to Sea. Because I figured if I'm going to be doing it, let's get enough lines to make it actually profitable. At the same time, I started a parent teacher coaching business and have talked to different young presidents organizations and things like that about, you're raising all of your employees one way, are you doing the same thing with your kids, and how does that translate? So very interesting stuff, and still interested in getting back into that. My wife is very, very involved with the Positive Discipline Association and doing all sorts of parent and teacher coaching still. She's a Montessori mentor teacher as well. But I looked at it and said, I'm a little bit concerned. We can create these incredible, successful individuals. We need to make sure that they have a planet to grow up on and that they have the ability to reproduce if they choose to.
Okay.
So that's how Stream to Sea kind of, I went one way, she went the other, and hopefully I get back to that at some point when we fix the problem.
For sure. And it was that Unimog what I ended up seeing when we were down by the river there? Or is that a different rig?
No, that was a different rig. That's the newer, more eco-friendly Sprinter van.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay.
Yeah, the Unimog has just about 4-foot tall tires. It looks like a mining vehicle or a military vehicle.
Yeah, I started run that back in my mind. I was like, yeah, I don't think that's the one I saw.
Yeah.
So you get involved with Stream to Sea. Have you always been environmentally conscious in this way? Like, was there just a fact or something that triggered, like, hey, I'm going to start dedicating my time and my life to this particular company for the social responsibility aspects of it?
Yeah, there was really a couple things that kind of triggered the, okay, this is what I need to do moment, right? One of them, we're in Maui. My youngest is probably 5 years old, has never been snorkeling. My wife decides, let's go to Lanai and go snorkeling on what essentially became a barf cruise, right? So you leave the Maui harbor, you go across to Lanai, everybody's thrown up on the boat, and then they have you jump into about 160-foot depth, and then the best snorkeling you see is at about 60 feet. A 5-year-old who's never been in the water and has a little bit of a fear of that did not go well, right? So,
is that the little crescent island? Okay.
Well, you might be thinking of Molokini. Both of them are kind of crescent islands. Molokini is off of Maui also, and it's a great snorkeling spot, much better than I think the Lanai Harbor was. But the whole point was, my daughter's willing to do it because I'm going to hold her hand and she's going to do it, but she gets back on the boat and says, I don't like snorkeling. And I said, okay, kid, have a little bit of faith in me. We're going to do something different tomorrow. We went to Honolulu Bay, very gentle slope into the water, starts off with kind of mud flats. The favorite animal of our family at the time was a cuttlefish, because we'd watched a Nova special on cuttlefish. They're amazing. Go look it up, the Nova special on cuttlefish. It's like, holy cow. So I've been swimming at the time in Hawaii for 42 years. I didn't even know that cuttlefish existed there. My 5-year-old finds a cuttlefish, and now she thinks she is the coolest thing in the world. She's a professional snorkeler, shows her mom and her older sister, and now we're good. The rest of the vacation is terrific. What I find out later on is that a lot of the chemicals in body care products, and sunscreen's the one that people are highlighting right now, but actually body care products are probably more dangerous. It doesn't take much. 62 parts per trillion, which is one drop in 6.5 Olympic-sized swimming pools, actually kills coral larvae. So when I look at Honolulu Bay, there's actually charts to tell you how much of each chemical's concentration is in each area. Honolulu Bay was sitting at over 2,000 parts per trillion. That means that the cuttlefish probably could not breed in that bay because there's too much estrogen. And that kind of floored me. Like, whoa, I found one after 42 years. My 5-year-old found one after 42 years. And I don't know if you can reproduce that now 10 years later, because I'm sure the concentrations have gone up. And then looking at Hanauma Bay, where I grew up, literally, my uncle would take us a couple times a month because he worked for the University of Hawaii. So we were kind of watching the coral and everything in Hanauma Bay. When I was, say, 5 or 6 years old, I'm now 52. If you walked up to your knees in Hanauma Bay, you would be hit at least 2 or 3 times by fish because there were so many. You were walking into their territory. I take my daughters back 10 years ago, and my oldest, precocious thing, who's been diving with me in Fiji and things like that, says, Dad, this is the most amazing bay. It was a beautiful hike, but why did we bring our mask and snorkel? You literally had to go find the fish. They weren't running into you anymore. I mean, when I was a kid, if people came from the mainland, you know, the Howleys, the white people that were dropping their trash all over the beach and things like that, locals would take frozen peas and put them down people's swimming trunks, because then you'd have 15-pound fish trying to get peas in your swimming trunks. It was hilarious, right? Watching people levitate out of the water because there was so much going on there. Along those lines, right, you look at Hanauma Bay, 29,800 parts per trillion, all the coral's dead, right? It's a marine preserve that's been destroyed by 4,000 to 6,000 tourists a day getting into the water with their chemicals on there. There's actually fish that start out as female and convert to male during breeding time and can't because there's too much estrogen in the water.
Okay. So, and I was preparing for this. I was reading an article that, like in Honolulu Bay specifically, there was the coral covered area has gone down from like 42% to like 9%.
Yeah.
So, and this is what you're talking about is like they can't, the coral larva, which is what helps coral breed. Is that right? I don't know a lot about coral, so excuse my ignorance here. Like,
No, coral larvae is just the babies. You
okay.
know, if you want to do some ocean porn, it's essentially, you know,
Yeah, let's
it,
do that ocean porn, Mike.
yeah, why not? So you've got you've got the male and female of the species. They just kind of shoot their stuff out into the ocean. It comes together, creates something, and then has to settle, right? It creates a living being, and then it has to settle. Um, if in that process it's exposed to too many of these chemicals that cause harm, it becomes incredibly problematic, and they cannot reproduce. And actually, it puts the coral under stress anyway. All of these chemicals mimic estrogen, and they are testosterone blockers. They're sperm blockers, and we're talking about humans now. But when you look at the coral, the endocrine system of coral is actually its skeleton. So if you end up putting it under all of these stresses, and then you add in ocean acidification or temperature rise or any of those things, it bleaches incredibly quickly. So if you look at Hawaii about 4 years ago, 40% of their coral died in a bleaching event because water temperature hit a certain number. And I don't know what the number was, let's say 92 degrees. So 4 months ago, it was supposed to hit 92 degrees again, and they thought all of the coral in Hawaii was going to die. Well, it happened. It hit 92 degrees or whatever that temperature is, and none of it bleached. And they had to go back forensically and look at it and say, oh, wait a minute. We banned 2 chemicals, and then we banned all the tourists. So there was nobody getting into the water except for locals, right? So the amount of chemicals and the amount of toxins and pollutants went down. It hit 92 degrees, and the coral went, yeah, whatever, we can handle that, right? Because it wasn't under other stress. And that was a direct quote, me, anthropomorphizing coral there. They said, yeah, we can handle this.
Yeah. Just and now back to coral. Yeah.
Right.
Hey, so this is you just talked about estrogen, so we might as well kind of unpack this right now. The basic, and by the way, I'm a total science knuckle dragger type guy. Like I do a limited amount of research. I haven't gone deep into this, but my understanding is there's the primary chemical that is estrogen mimicking is oxybenzo 3 or benzophenone 3.
Yeah.
And essentially what that does is it your body, as it absorbs it, your hormone system treats it as if more estrogen was present in your body. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that is true. And there are a whole bunch of chemicals, but oxybenzone or benzophenone 3 is the one that most places are banning. It's the first one. And that kind of jumps a little bit of a segue there to the third reason that I got involved with Stream to Sea. About 20 years ago, my thyroid stopped working. It should not have happened. It wasn't a genetic lineage thing. About $60,000 worth of medical research on a couple of different continents. And Dr. Klein, one of the founders of functional medicine, said, yeah, environmental toxins. You don't have the dark skin. You use sunscreen too much. You went in the water all the time and you shampooed and showered after every time you went into the salt water. You have killed your thyroid with environmental toxins in your body care products. So oxybenzone, the one that they've replaced it with, now that they banned oxybenzone in Hawaii, they replaced it with avobenzone. Okay, even bro science can tell you that doesn't sound that different.
No, so
Right?
it still has the benzone.
Right.
Yeah.
Still has the benzo. See, you're on it, man.
I'm on it.
The bro science is working. So oxybenzone needs to have octinoxate, another one that's actually an endocrine disruptor and an estrogen mimicker, to keep it stabilized. Avobenzone uses octocrylene. So avobenzone is also an obesinogen, which means your body stores fat when you're exposed to the new chemical. It stores it in your subcutaneous fat layer, and it does not want to let go of it because it also knows that it's an endocrine disruptor and an estrogen issue. So it, makes you want to get fatter. That's lovely. Octocrylene was just shown if you put it into a bottle and leave it on a shelf for 6 months to a year, it turns into benzophenone, the base layer, not a benzophenone 3, which is actually a very well-known, very much banned carcinogen. So when we look at this stuff, within 30 minutes of putting any of these chemicals on your body, right? You're using a normal chemical sunscreen. You put it on your body, within 30 minutes, they can test your urine and they pick up huge levels of estrogen and endocrine disruptors. Now, what's interesting to me about that is the FDA says mineral sunscreens are what do they call it? GRASE, G-R-A-S-E, generally regarded as safe and effective or something like that. They say mineral sunscreens are the only way to go. But they have acknowledged all of these chemicals are in your urine, they're in your bloodstream, they're above the levels that they regard as safe, but they have not done any testing to figure out exactly what that does.
Interesting.
But if you look at it, they've actually linked it to all sorts of different diseases, one of them being Hirschsprung's disease in kids, which is when they're born without a colon, which is a serious issue because within a couple days they have to have major reconstructive surgery or they die because they can't eliminate waste. Right? Huge. They've linked it to breast cancer, to endometriosis, to all sorts of different things that are estrogen related.
Well, and to your point earlier, like it's not just sunscreen products. So like you can test sunscreen maybe in a silo and say, well, these levels is it really low or whatever it is, but all the chemicals and products and different things that people are experiencing on their lives, I can only imagine how that compounds over time.
Oh, it's enormous. There's a doctor, her last name is Swan, who did all sorts of research on our fertility and has said that plastics, which she's big into the plastic side of it, but she does mention in there, by the way, the plastic chemicals are the same ones that are in body care products, and they're all petroleum based for the most part, and they're all made by pharmaceutical companies and fun things like this. She says that our fertility has gone down 60% in the last 30 years. We're scheduled to go down another 20% in the next 3 years. And in 29 years, she is estimating that the human race will be functionally extinct because we will not have enough fertility to be able to reproduce.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's body care products, right? So I look at it and say, does this stuff work? Are we actually fixing any problems? I go back to the coral reef and I say, yeah, if it could handle that bleaching event and survive, cool. We have a river in British Columbia, the Cowichan River, that they determined that they had not had a salmon egg hatch in 4 years. And when they did tests, they found all sorts of chemicals in the fish eggs. So the guy who rents inner tubes, and I'm looking at British Columbia going, how long is somebody going to want to inner tube on one of those rivers? That season's got to be like 6 weeks long, you know? I mean, otherwise you're in dry suits or something. I don't know how that works. But he says, let's find the only brand tested and proven on the planet not to harm freshwater fish, saltwater fish, and coral larvae, and let's make it mandatory. So literally you cannot rent an inner tube. He won't let you on the river. He will not let you on the shuttle bus if you don't use Stream to Sea sunscreen. Okay. 1 season later, they have the largest salmon hatch that they've had in 2 decades. So you look at it and say, there's lots of problems with the salmon. We took out one factor and nature came back.
Wow. So there is hope.
Oh yeah. And that's the thing, right?
Is
We
there
look
hope, Mike?
Is there hope? Well, you know what the deal is? To me, everything is about follow the money, right? So right now, people are doing everything they can to block me. So if you get, you know, a very small listenership, we're wanting it to go as viral as possible because it's all about information. My understanding is currently there's only 15% fact in every media channel out there, and 85% of it is opinion. So the fact is there's 360 papers talking about oxybenzone and octinoxate and all these different things that show the environmental effect, the human effect, the, you know, all these sort of things. But it's a major multi-trillion-dollar business to have body care products, right? So they don't want this information getting out there. The beauty of it is it doesn't take a huge shift. It doesn't take a financial shift. It's just put the one back that's not good and take the one that is good, right? And the one that's actually got the science behind it, tested and proven. I always say on our current trajectory, because I think humans are amazing at figuring out how to fix what they screwed up, right? And most of it is what we've screwed up. And so take us out. All COVID was a beautiful example of take the humans out of the equation and nature comes back, right? And it doesn't take long. So now how do we lessen our impact? And Stream to Sea's done that, right? There's actually a guy that you might meet at one of these breakfasts that I'm not even going to tell you who he is because he doesn't want that information out there, but he dresses like a GQ model. So you know that he's definitely not my normal type of friend. If I get out of shorts and t-shirt, it's shocking to me. But in the last 12 years, he's had 4 surgeries to remove breast tissue. And the doctors can't figure out where all of his estrogen is coming from. And what they ended up with, right, they took it all out of his food. They've given him, you know, hormone replacement, all this sort of stuff, and the estrogen keeps showing up. It turns out that it was in his body care products, right? He used too much product.
You know, this is one of the main reasons I want to bring you on as well is the discussion of estrogen is a big topic in my house right now. My wife is on the back end of a estrogen cleanse, which is kind of I think it's a more common thing where people are getting conscious of it. There's dietary supplementation, a food regimen that you can do to help your body process through estrogen. She's taking something from Nutradin, something like that, a company like that. It's funny. This is the 3rd time that she's done it. She's done it every like 3 or 4 months. And her alertness, her like attitude on the world, like I don't know what's in these shakes, but like when she quote unquote detoxifies, and again, I'm bro science. I haven't done this myself. I'm looking forward to doing it with her the next time that she goes through it. I see a change in personality and attitude and alertness and excitement. And like, I can only imagine like how many people might be walking around suboptimal because their body's filled with all of this junk.
Oh, it's huge. And that's what that Dr. Swan is saying, right? At one point in 2008, they did a study specifically on oxybenzone and found that close to 97% of Americans in 2008 had it in their system at all times, right? So it's in a lot of our drinking water. It's in the plastics that we're putting things in, all of that stuff is leaching out into our system. So to say that our fertility has gone down 60% in the last 25, 30 years, holy cow, right? I mean, that's enormous. So everybody's walking around with hormone issues, and they're talking about the feminization of males. I mean, it's really significant. There's studies all over the world where they're looking at why are our fertility rates going down? Why are, more men not having the testosterone and androgen that they're supposed to? Fertility doc the other day told me that they used to prescribe hormone replacement for men at an average age of 58, and it's currently closer to 38. And I look at that and say, wow, man, that hasn't taken very much time in their career, in their lifetime, to watch that sort of a huge shift is really spooky, right? And the American public just doesn't know.
But I mean, if you can have well-conditioned hair.
Right. And that's really, when it comes down to the education, that's my favorite. If we really educate people and they really look into it and they understand what they're doing, they only have two choices, right? And that is make a change, or admit that you're an idiot and an ass chicken and you really like your shampoo, right?
Okay. Yeah, well, that's really two choices that you have for sure. Well, and let's go back to the products, right? Right,
Yeah.
like you said, sunscreens, lotions, conditioners, a lot of personal care products have these oxy or
Benzophenones, yeah, all sorts of different things.
phenone.
I mean, there's lots of
So,
benzophenones.
so there's this wide variety of chemicals. Many of them mimic estrogen in your body. Why are they put into these products in the first place? I'm a firm believer of just trying to get to like the genesis of why somebody would do that. It can't be out of malice. It has to have some kind of practical reason or quote unquote justification for showing up in that product in the first place.
Wow, you have more faith in humanity than I do at this point.
Okay. Because, I don't know, my basic readings around it is like for the benzophenone or whatever, it's basically it's in plastic products in order to stop the sun from
Yeah.
leaching plastic back into, whatever the liquid materials that are there. And then from a sunscreen standpoint, it has something to do with like zinc or something or other absorption, or I don't understand it. Bro science again. Sorry for my ignorance.
No, that's quite all right. And let's start with the furthest out and then get it to the narrow. The furthest out, my understanding is that, what was it, almost 40 years ago, we were told that we had to wear sunscreen.
Yeah.
And today, we're actually 4 times more likely to get skin cancer than we were then. So what is that about? I don't know, right? There's lies, damn lies, and statistics. So you have no idea, maybe we're testing more, maybe the ozone's worse. I don't know. I've also been told that the major company that started us off, which I'm not going to mention because I don't want to get sued again, is
yeah, that'd be great. Let's keep the Jake Blanchard podcast just out of that for right.
yeah, we don't want that.
Thanks, Mike.
So yeah, I'm really trying. I'm censoring myself. It's tough. I said ass chicken rather than the things that I could have said.
Oh, you can say whatever you want on the podcast, brother.
Okay, cool. So one of the major sunscreen companies is owned by a pharmaceutical company. And my understanding is the year that they started telling us that we had to wear sunscreen, the parent company started testing infertility and erectile dysfunction drugs. So I think that a lot of, and this gets way broad, I think a lot of what we call healthcare is actually sick care. And I think there's a lot of dollars that are associated with it. And when you look at the parent companies, they're not American companies, not saying that that would make any difference from a capitalistic standpoint. And I am a capitalist. I don't have any issue with that. Yeah. It's about unconscionable business practices. And when I grew up in business and marketing, there was a term called unconscionable business practices, where if you did something that was unethical or immoral, you would be taken to court, you'd be fired, if you reported wrong, all of those sort of things. Now I think the term is just business practices. They've taken out unconscionable and they allow all of it. So the parent company that I'm referring to made all sorts of toxins that were designed in Vietnam to, take out foliage and things like that. And they have acknowledged now that it killed all the GIs that came into contact with it. They also made gases that killed the Jews in the Holocaust. They now sell it to the American public as fertilizer. They've made baby powders that have been proven to be harmful to babies. And when they get sued by the United States, they take it off of our shelves, but leave it on the shelves of every other country in the world. So when we say we hope it's not because people are just malicious, I don't think they're necessarily malicious. I think they're willing to do anything for $1. And I'm just not there, right? And so to put that in huge contradiction to where we are at Stream to Sea, we don't sleep if there's a potential for any harm. My business partner and I have not taken a salary yet. Our goal is to actually make global change. And what I say, my personal goal is to save all the babies. And I don't care whether they're human or cuddly little coral larva. I have no idea what a coral larva looks like. I'm guessing it's not cuddly. But
yeah.
But why do they put the chemicals in? It's cheap. It's easy. People like it because they understand it. It looks like lotion. It goes in, but it goes into your skin. You don't want those chemicals going into your skin. We just don't know. And so we don't want to learn fast enough to fix the change. And that's why I end up talking to anybody about anything. And that's probably why I get sued. But it's a matter of you have to learn how to use the correct stuff. It's not just about convenience, right? It's about your health, and it's about the health of the next generations. So you got to learn how to put it on. All the shampoo and our lotions and stuff like that, no, it's just like every other product. It's just healthy and good for you to use. But a sunscreen, a mineral sunscreen like titanium or zinc, sits on top of the skin instead of going in. So you have to know how to apply it so that it doesn't make you look like a zombie. And when you look like a zombie, people don't want to use it.
Okay.
And that's too bad.
And so that's what Stream to Sea is the foundational elements is titanium or zinc. Is that what it is?
Yeah, we use a titanium dioxide, and it is a coated pharmaceutical grade titanium dioxide, which just means that it's excellent for UVA and UVB. It's broad spectrum. And we have all sorts of antioxidants in there to take care of UVC, more about the aging and infrared and all that sort of stuff. Zinc in and of itself is actually not all that safe either. It's pretty safe for humans. It does not pass any of the environmental toxicology, aquatic toxicology experiments that we've done. And it's because zinc is slightly water soluble. So as it breaks down, it changes the pH of the water. And the way you test that just logically, in the old days when you used to, do a gnarly skateboarding accident, they would put you back together with zinc screws, and too many bodies rejected them. So now they go with titanium because it's more inert. And when you get that one person that goes, no, I bought titanium posts for my earrings and I'm still infected. Well, that's because you bought cheap ones and they mix them with nickel. And almost everybody's allergic to nickel.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we use titanium dioxide. We've just started using an eco-safe zinc, which is the only one that I've ever found that passed aquatic toxicity testing. So we're just experimenting with that right now.
Okay. And then, what is the biggest challenge in getting this change to happen, right? It's based on the conversation you and I are having, this seems like a no-brainer. And I know that there's economic drivers behind this. I know that there's scaling challenges around it, getting it into the hands of folks. But what are you up against right now, and what's the company working on doing to solve it?
Sure. So remembering that there's trillions of dollars worth of money that is at risk, right, by our competitors. What we're up against is things like it's education, but it's hard to get it to go viral. So we need to get the public understanding what they're using and what the other options are. I had a conversation with one of the assistants for a major talk show host. And they said, oh my goodness, we need to do this story. We need to let people know. We need to let the people know. We need to save the reef. That's where 70% of our oxygen comes from. And, blah, 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 the ocean. We got to save it. A couple days later, I got a call from that assistant that said, we can't run the story. And I said, really? Well, why not? Isn't it a great story? Oh yeah, everybody here is royally pissed and want to run this story, but we will lose $60 million a quarter in advertising. if we call out all of our advertisers for what they're doing.
That's so irresponsible. That's like that is the price of human life, I guess, right?
Right? It's cash flow, right? So we have people like, Sea Shepherd, the pirates that go after all the people that are, going after the whales. They endorse us. The Patty dive instruction, Nowie dive instruction, SSI dive instruction. We're the only ones that they will endorse because we have the science behind us. Richard Branson actually did a video for us saying, this is the way to go, sailors. You got to use this stuff. Their PR firm said, get ready for 160,000 hits an hour, right? Because he's only done this a couple times talking about a brand, and he's so behind your science of this brand that he wants to get it out there. He's going to do this personal video for you. So great. They tell us this, we've got it set up. We're ready for 1 million hits a day. And they launch it, tell us when it happens, and we get 12 extra hits that day. 12, not 12,000, not 12 million, 12. And the PR firm is scratching their head going, it's getting blocked. We don't know how. We don't know what stopped it. We can't figure out how to get around it. Right? And that's Virgin Voyages, right? Then they're getting blocked when they use this message.
I'm speechless. I mean, it is really easy in this day and age to sit behind your keyboard and put on a tinfoil hat about shit. Like, and I do quite often just as an exercise. But this is tough. This is tough to hear, man. It's tough to hear that major media outlets who on the ground floor, on the tactical levels, are very behind the message that you have a great message, and then are unwilling to publish stories about it, and that even billionaires who are endorsing the product can't be heard about it for some reason. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's and see, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I am not one who, thinks everybody's out to get me.
I like to
But
go deep sometimes. Sometimes I like to like go to the ends, and then I go, all right, all of this was BS. This was fun. Like, it's fun to look into, but my curiosity gets me in trouble, right? I just,
sure.
you go through and but in this case, I mean, this is a firsthand experience. This is hard to hear.
Oh, it's not only firsthand experience. I'm at a Key West, Florida city council meeting where they're trying to ban 2 chemicals, right? And I do a Facebook Live video that just says, hey guys, this is Mike. I don't even say that I'm from Stream to Sea. I have on a coral restoration shirt. I'm there to support other people. And all I say is, we've got this thing going on where they're trying to ban a couple of chemicals from, harming the reef. Please come down and support us, join us. And then I just kind of do a pan of what's going on. 15 minutes goes by, right? As soon as they approve it, it took forever for them to approve it. They approve it, and 15 minutes later, there's videos on either side of mine saying, this guy's nuts, and then it gets taken down within an hour. Same thing happened on YouTube, right? How do you even have the funds, how many millions of dollars to track everything that I'm saying to make sure whatever I post on my personal YouTube page or my personal Facebook page is followed and responded to? I don't even know how that works. I'm not that cool, you know?
This is a really interesting time that we're in.
It is. Your volume just went way down, and it seems
Oh,
to be
sorry.
kind of.
That was my my just reflecting. Like, this is, I did not expect this today and talking about this. I'm as I'm prepping for you and getting ready to go. I'm like, man, this is like a really cool company that's doing some really cool things. Like, these are the types of things I want to talk about and surround myself with and understand at a deeper level, because I do believe in acknowledging the symbiotic relationship that we have with the world, with our communities, with one another. I'm awoken, if I can use that word. I've woken up to the fact that the world's a lot bigger than me. And I think that that's a part of a person's maturation process. And like, what is my impact? What am I driving toward? And it's interesting to see people like yourself and the company that you're representing to have gone to great lengths in order to solve a problem that we can all agree on based on scientific literature, and to be forced out in a lot of ways due to corporate interests and because somebody can't push commercials for things that they know the scientific literature is pointing to as harmful. That's just such a gut punch. And so I think that's why my volume goes down. It's just that was a
Yeah.
hard pill to swallow just now, Mike. You caught me with some unexpected information.
Well, and to me, it's one of the most frustrating things that I've ever run into, because I look at it and say, I've been successful in a number of different businesses and, been able to be the top of the game and everything. And I've actually never had a product this good, right? So it's been based on better than others, but not necessarily the best, right? Or portrayed as better than, but not necessarily the best. This is the only product line on the planet that has done the testing to prove that we do not do harm to coral larvae, to freshwater fish, saltwater fish, or humans, right? Most of our products you can put on a dog's nose and they can eat it. It's totally safe, but it also happens to be incredibly effective at what it does. So it seems like if you're the only, and it's the one that everybody would want if they understood it, right? You just tell them, this is the only one. And they go, dang, and it's not even more expensive, right? And it's easy to use, and it's actually really nice, because usually you get something that's good for you or good for the environment or good to use, right? And this is actually all three. So it's a total no-brainer. And you ought to be able to just say to every store out there and everybody that has skin and uses any body products, look, here's what we've got. And it should be a snap, right? It should be the biggest thing on the planet. It should really, at this point, be one of the few things on the planet that you use for those sort of things. And it's not getting out there fast, right? And so to me, like I said, it's one of the most frustrating things. I've worked for almost 4 years now, and I haven't taken any money out of this company, right? I mean, if I look at my past jobs, I'm in the hole $1.5 million, easy. Right? Now, yeah, I mean, total transparency. I own a small part of the company now, because I'm not going to work for 4 years for for nothing,
Yeah.
and that's not sustainable, forever. But it's important enough that I'm willing to do it, and I have that ability. My business partner has invested all of her retirement and everything, right? All of her security in trying to get this done.
That's incredible, man. And we will certainly put links in this podcast, and I'll be pushing it out, promoting it to the best of my abilities, barring any kind of, shadow banning associated with your name here, Mike. Hey, as we're starting to wrap up here, what are you excited about through the rest of this year? And then again, where can people find your product or find you?
Sure. Well, streamtosea.com is excellent. There's all kinds of science on there. It talks about all the ingredients that we have and why they're there. We have gone for clean ingredients rather than a clean label. So there's a big difference. A lot of people want to just see olive leaf. Well, we've used the safest form of olive leaf, right? So it may have a chemical name or a Latin sounding name. So that's why we've put a dictionary to it. Because a lot of organic ingredients actually still kill fish and still have preservatives in there that are really a problem. Where to find us? We're in dive stores. We're in health food stores. Streamtosea.com is a great place to go to. We have it on Amazon. We're, as many places as we can be. You can reach out to me on streamtosea.com. I'm the only Mike. I'm one of the only males in the company. Actually, the whole management team is made up of incredibly strong, gifted women, and they call me the staff feminist, which cracks me up, but I'm good with that. Whatever. I raised 2 daughters, so
Awesome.
like that. What I'm excited about going into the new year is playing with this new EcoSafe zinc, getting more and more things like you reaching out to us, wanting to get information to people, and having more of kind of a groundswell, because I think it's going to be consumer driven. We can't have this be a push. I think it has to be a pull. Once we get to the point where there's enough education, people are going to demand it. And we're starting to see more and more of that. People are going to dive sites in different pristine areas and saying, what are you doing? You're killing the coral. Why are you selling the wrong stuff? And that's exciting to me. We're having more and more people reach out to us wanting us to back their products, and then we're helping them to reformulate them because they were so toxic that there's no way we can endorse them. So finding somebody that's got a soap that's designed specifically for people to use in saltwater on their boat, and then realize that it's more toxic than most of the things that I've ever seen, which, by the way, this one just throws me. One of those little facts. The number one thing to use for diving to clear your mask of fog is your own spit. Number two is baby shampoo. I have not seen a baby shampoo that did not create 100% kill rate in an aquarium. Right? So we even had to make a mask defog. If it's killing all the fish, what is it doing to the child that you're putting it on? Right? That's heavy, right? So there's a lot of things like that where people are starting to wake up to it. They're starting to question. The body care products, unfortunately, you cannot find those chemicals. If they have oxybenzone, avobenzone, all those sort of things, you cannot find them on the label of a body care product. So when somebody says to me, my body care products are clean, I said, great. Let's look at the ingredients. And if you see the term fragrance, there's 3,000 chemicals that can be hidden under the term fragrance. You have no idea what they are. Hundreds of them are estrogen, hundreds of them are endocrine disruptors. So I can't answer that question, right? I don't know if it's clean. That's frustrating.
That's very frustrating. Well, Mike, Malterre, Stream to Sea, I appreciate your time. I appreciate your insights, your knowledge around this topic. You've got my commitment to make a switch and really be conscious, specifically around sunscreens. And I'm my eyes are open right now, and I'm going to advocate to the best of my abilities around this cause. It's specifically around the impacts of hoarding estrogen, like many of our bodies are doing, the way that it's throwing off our body systems. And certainly the long-term impacts onto our society and the earth that we share. So I appreciate you sharing some time with me today, man. It really means a lot.
Hey, it's been a pleasure. Like I said, I think we can all do better, so it takes all of us. Let's make it happen.
All right, cheers, Mike.
Thank you.